What up? Drew Schroeder here, and today with me I have Adam Lyons, Attraction Explained CEO, real estate agent, business owner, and slayer of snakes in his presumably backyard. Adam Lyons, what's up?
Good to see you, man. Thanks so much.
I saw that the other day on your Facebook, and I was like, yeah, all right. I thought it'd be a LARP sword, but...
Yeah, no. So what happens is, so I live in Texas, live on a ranch in Texas, and I'm a business coach. I own multiple companies. I've been a dating coach for 16 years. And when I first moved to Texas, I did it because I'd kind of predicted a global lockdown, not because of a pandemic. I do need to say that. I'm not saying I'm psychic. I believed it was going to happen because of riots. But I decided that if there was because I could just tell that the governments around the world were shifting to a more aggressive stance on rioting. And they were basically going to say, everyone stay home. That I could just see it coming. Right. I got the cause wrong, but the action was correct. Anyway, so I bought myself a giant plot of land so I could basically be free. So if someone said you have to stay home, it's like, cool, I'll go on hikes every day and, and everything will be great. But when I first bought it, these like Texas people were like, y'all ever lived on a ranch before? And I was like, no, I haven't actually. I haven't actually lived in a ranch before. They go, you're going to have a lot of problems there, city slicker. And I was like, whatever, it'll be fine. Yeah. But sure enough, it turns out that snakes, hogs, deer, bobcats, mountain lions, these are all things I've had to deal with since living there. And I'm now very well versed, but I do it like in my own flavor. So like, everyone's like, you got to have a snake gun. I'm like, no, I'm going to have a sword because I used to be a professional fencer. And so anyway, the whole story is why this is so funny is, we're very successful now in life, and I have a personal chef, and I love my personal chef. He's from Louisiana. He makes like the best gumbo I've ever had in my life. This guy is incredible, and we've become really close friends, right? Me and this chef, and he's not there every day, but he comes over quite a lot. And so he was over, and I damaged my shoulder because I was in a hot tub with a couple of women naked.
I remember this.
And I fell out my hot tub and fell off the end of my deck and severed my shoulder. So I'm not supposed to do anything with my right arm for another 2 weeks because this happened like a few days ago. And so I go out there and I'm like, I'm going to kill this freaking rattlesnake because the rattlesnake's going after our chickens because we have a chicken farm. And because if there's a lockdown, we wanted to be able to generate food. Plus, obviously, Great Depression coming up. We can talk about that later. So I go into the chicken coop with my saber, my real saber, and my personal chef's with me. And he's like, Adam, your arm. And I was like, oh God, but the snake. And he goes, I'll do it for you. So I'm like, you know what? Chef's got to be good with a knife, right? So I hand him this saber.
They do make chef knives. So
dude, yeah. The problem is, I didn't think of this time, chefs only cut things that stay still. So he starts swinging and saber around the place. He cuts up my chicken coop. He hits the shed. 3 of the chickens almost headless. He missed them, but almost. He hits everything but the snake. This rattlesnake, snake starts freaking, and it goes for him twice. Yeah. And I'm just like, my chef's gonna die. And I start thinking of all the food I'm never gonna be able to eat again. So I grab the saber out of his hand. I'm like, give me the freaking thing. I go, bam, and I behead the rattlesnake. Yeah. And then it starts twitching, and in my brain, it was still alive. It was beheaded, but it was still alive. So I hack it like 3 or 4 more times. So I killed the rattlesnake. And then everyone's like, your arm, you're not supposed to do anything. I was like, I know, but I had to weigh up living life without a right arm or without my chef. And I was like, and I can't live without my chef. So that's the story.
Right.
So yeah, I've now killed a rattlesnake. Obviously, I'm some kind of level 1 Dungeons and Dragons character.
For future reference, if you want to save your arm, I am taking chef classes.
Well, if I'd have known that, you could just, and I could let the guy, he is such a good friend.
Sacrifice he's willing to make for you.
Yeah, but then we would still have the snake though. I'd have no chef and stuff to do with the snake. So
yeah, I totally know what you mean about all the wildlife because I got a house in Tennessee, but I mean, really, we just have wild deer coming up to eat the apple trees.
Dude, deer are the biggest pest. So one of the things that we're big on is giving back. Like, we've been very fortunate. I used to be a janitor. I grew up very poor. I lived in a project. I haven't always been wealthy. And I'm self-made, right? Everything I've done, a lot of hard work and a lot of sacrifice. And we are wealthy at this point. And but I wanted to give back. And like I said, I kind of predicted lockdown. I predicted a whole bunch of things because I used to be in crisis management. I used to predict bad problems. And so I can't not do it. So I predicted and I think anybody can do this. There is going to be a very bad depression coming up, right? And that's you can just look at what's going on with inflation, everything. This is going to happen. So when that happens, the price of food will go through the roof because food will stay the same. We need food to live. So I was like, well, how can I give back in the future rather than just today? And I was like, well, it would actually make more sense rather than saving money, because in the future, the money will be worth less. So that would be stupid. Right. If I put it in stocks and shares, if I guess right, the money will stay the same. But if I guess wrong, it won't. And so I was like, actually, it makes a lot more sense to invest in a farm, because if I can develop a farm, specifically, we have a metric, which is we have to be able to feed 100 families of 4 or 5 people. And so we're building out the farm, because if there is a problem, a global financial problem, and you come to me and say, I need help financially, the minute I give you that money, it's going to get eaten by the banks or any kind of debt you have. Right. But if I say to you, come to my house once a week and I'll give you a bag of groceries, that's actually worth a lot more, because, because I mean, you've seen hyperinflation where it's like a million, whatever.
Trillion is the new billion. Yeah.
Right. In Nigeria or whatever, right? So for a loaf of bread, it's like $1 trillion. Whereas like, I'll be able to be like, no, here's $1 trillion, but just here's a loaf of bread. So that's kind of like what we're moving towards, to hedge against any kind of depression, to help people in our community. So it's not family, but not that we wouldn't help family, but to help the local community. So we're big on that. We're always trying to use the knowledge that we've gained to predict the future, to protect it in the best way that we can.
Right. I got you. So, so you've been in investing in a lot of businesses, or are you talking about stocks and shares, like specifically?
Everything.
I've been trying to be well-rounded.
Yeah, same. I've got a wide variety. So, like I said, I've coached 700 companies, actually over 700 companies in the last year, in how they can grow their companies through merging, acquisitions, or investing in other companies that will help them grow. So I've done a lot of that. And obviously I've done that for myself as well. But yeah, my personal investment portfolio is everything from rental properties through to bullion, gold, silver, like physical gold, silver, through to a wide arrangement of investments into companies via the stock market, and a healthy cryptocurrency portfolio. And some personal investments in small projects like local, and investing in other people's businesses to help them grow too. So I've got a really diverse portfolio, I suppose, of different things. And that's really key for me, because again, you can't, I had a career in crisis management. Like I said, you can't be in that industry for any length of time and not freak out constantly, because you're basically,
like, there's a global pandemic. Now what? So you were since you were anticipating it, that's how, because I know on Facebook you were talking about like who has been 10xing their business this year, and I'm like, man, I lost my job.
We were prepped for it, and we did. We one of our businesses, I think it's 7x. I don't think it was 10x, but we 7x one of our businesses, we saw a lot of growth. But again, we predicted a lockdown. We didn't predict the pandemic. But I will tell you this: we knew of the pandemic 2 months before it happened. So years ago, we predicted the lockdown, but we had a 2 months heads up. So I can tell you that we didn't run out of toilet paper, because months before we were stopped. And actually what we did, we thought ahead. We bought B-days, because we were like, you know what? Toilet paper, we can't guarantee when the lockdown's going to end. So it's funny, because everyone kept saying it's only going to be a month, or it's only going to be 2 weeks. But we'd already predicted that it would be over a year. And so we were like, even if we stockpile toilet paper, it would be irrelevant at the end of the year. So we're like, we're better off finding alternate solutions. Plus, these are healthier for the environment. We don't run off the public water main. We have our own personal spring. Again, we chose our house specifically for that. So I was like, well, it makes a lot more sense for us to just use B-days and be very minimal with paper waste anyway. So, and a lot of the decisions that we make, like, it's funny, I get called a prepper a lot, and I'm like, not a prepper, even though there are similarities.
Right.
Everything we do must be functional. So the B days are just a natural part of everyday life now. It's never like, oh, if there's a pandemic, we'll bring out the B days. You know, it's just like, no, this is just better in general. So we're always trying to think of what's practical. Like, for example, we knew 2 months in advance, but we didn't go and buy a bunch of tins in the grocery stores, because that would have taken away from the local community. What we did was we contacted a local butcher and we bought fresh meat from the local butcher at wholesale, because we buy it directly from the butcher. And then we bought 2 giant freezers, deep freezers, and we chopped up the meat and we put it in the deep freezers. And then we started a farm to grow our own vegetables. So while everyone else was in the grocery stores freaking out and lining up, we would just go to the deep freeze, pull out fresh steak, grab veggies from our garden. And I don't know if you remember, during the pandemic, we were posting these beautiful 5-course gourmet meals that we were preparing. And everyone's like, man, I'm just sitting living off my ramen. How are you doing this? There's nothing in the grocery store. But we had, 9 months worth of food stored up.
Okay. So you pretty accurately predicted that. So that's pretty impressive. Especially because you said 2 years, and then 2 months, you're like, all right, it's happening, right?
Yeah.
That's how you gained the leverage to utilize. Now you're saying that there's going to be that there's something coming up, right?
Yeah.
How are you certain that this is going to happen, and you're not just like some fortune teller, like we need to convince the audience, because hey, you're 1 for 1 right now.
Yeah. So I'll tell you a pretty funny story. So 2 months before the lockdown, we predicted that COVID would cause a lockdown, right? So we already knew a lockdown was coming, but I knew a lockdown was coming within 10 years, not within 2, right? Or 3. So I knew at some point within 10 there would be one. It just happened to be within 3. And I got the reason wrong. So I'm 100% honest about it. But when I said to my partner, I said to her, hey, I think COVID is going to cause the lockdown.
Right. We
need to stockpile food. She looked at me, and I'm blessed to have like the best girlfriend in the world. I swear to God, she's incredible. She went, how sure are you? And I was like, somewhat. And so she said, okay, how much do you need? And I was like, I think I want to spend like $3,000 to buy enough food. Because I was like, we'll buy wholesale, we'll buy fresh meat, we'll live off it if we don't use it. We will use it, right? We just won't go grocery shopping. And I'll be honest, I still barely go grocery shopping because I'm still living off of it. Because we just kept replenishing the freezer. Every time we'd go to the butcher when they got a new animal. And we actually have animals ourselves. We have cows. And so we can take a cow to the butcher and you can exchange, you can exchange your cow. You can be like, I'll trade this leg for some sheep and this leg for a pig. So it's kind of cool if you have cows, you can exchange.
Oh, wow. So I don't have any of that in Tennessee.
Right. It's really cool. Totally worth getting a cow. You can buy a baby cow for like $200, and within 2 to 3 years, you have a full-size cow that's worth $2,000. It's, by the way, one of the best investments you can make. And they mow your lawn for you. It's a good trade. But then you can trade the meat for meat you don't have. It's cool. You can get bacon, right? So anyway, you learn all this cool stuff living out here. So the long and short of it is I looked at her, and of course, as the months went by, it was 2 months, or the weeks went by, there was no lockdown. Yeah. So I was like, oh, it'll be next week. It'll be next week. It didn't happen. And I'd have because I told my friends to do this. So I got 5 of my friends went out and spent thousands of dollars on food and freezers. And they're like, Adam, are you sure? And now I doubt myself. Right? I'm like, I think, pretty sure they're going to lock it down. Yeah. And they're like, man, it doesn't look like they're going to lock it down. I'm like, they're going to lock it down. I'm so sure of it. But I was not sure at this point. And then when it happened, they will phone me. Oh my God, you're a genius. So I'll say how I come to it.
I was just like, oh, they shut down the NBA. Maybe I should take this seriously.
Yeah, we knew. So we'd been looking at the Wuhan situation from the November before. Because what we do is we try and pay attention to big events that happen around the world and just think, what impact will this have? Right. And, I don't, it's not like I do this all day, every day. I'm not like a nutter sitting on the internet, but I will absolutely take half an hour once a month to look into something that some of my friends around the world are saying this is a big deal, right? So in Hong Kong, when they had the problems with China and the police and they were invading Hong Kong, I have a very good friend in Hong Kong. So rather than looking at the media, I phoned my friend in Hong Kong and was like, yo, what's going on? And he said, it's bad. Yeah. So I now know directly from a guy, he's like, dude, they're in the streets with protests. It's horrible. They're trying to invade Hong Kong via the police instead of the military, because that way there's no official invasion that anyone can do anything about. So it was all sorts of horrible stuff. And again, I look at that and I get the information from somebody boots on the ground. One of the best things about traveling all over the world for the last 16 years is I have friends in every country.
Right.
So now I'm like, holy crap, that's what's going on. And I start looking, what impact is that going to have? So I started thinking, okay, the only impact will be if somebody like from the West decides to move in and attack and do something about it. That could trigger a third world war. So I just make a little mental note, okay, watch to see what's happening in the West now, if anyone cares about it. Right. And so as I could see that the West news really didn't cover much about it and they really didn't care. So I'm like, okay, well, that's not really going to bother the government. So I'm like, really sucks for the people of Hong Kong, but ultimately this is not something to worry about.
Yeah.
The Chinese flu was different. That was like, Italy's having problems. And I'm like, man, Italy's a long way from China. And that's when you start thinking, okay, so like, for example, I'll talk about something that today isn't a big deal to you. You may not even know about it, but watch for it. Have you heard about the India variant?
I would assume that there would be, because I know that it's spreading very quick right now.
It's spreading very quick, but it's specifically an India variant. Now, this is the really interesting thing. 4 days ago, there was only one case in the UK, or maybe 3 cases, but that it's multiplying by almost double a day. So they were up to like 400 or 500 cases as of yesterday. Okay. So no idea where it is today. And a lot of people in the UK have had vaccines. If you read any report about it, it will say that, that there is no evidence that the vaccine does not stop it.
Right.
That phrase is one of those phrases that really worries me. I read the media, I look for phrases like that. I'm like, but there also is no evidence that the vaccine does stop it.
Right.
What they actually mean with that phrase, and again, because I worked in media for so long, what they mean is they don't know. Right. But people read that and be like, no, the vaccine's going to help. And that's not what they said. They did not say the vaccine's going to help. They said there is no evidence it won't or that it will.
Right.
And what we know, the reason COVID is called COVID-19 is because it's the 2019 version of the COVID virus. Yeah. And we know that every year the government has to create, or the CDC has to create a brand new vaccine because it evolves year after year. We know this is what happens. There was a COVID-18.
Yeah, I'm aware of this. Yeah, there's a new flu shot every year, pretty much. And they have to predict it from the year before.
Right. The fact that we call it a COVID vaccine, you could just interchange it and call it a flu vaccine. Meaning the fact that we all have this vaccine right now is irrelevant if the India version is immune to it, which it may be, meaning we need the next vaccine as well. The long and short of it is, and I predicted this at the very beginning of COVID. So this is like a good example of like, by the time this gets out, who knows what people see, but I'm talking about something that if you go online, you look up India variant, you'll see how dangerous the India variant is. The India variant is already knocked out India, and they've got people dying on the streets outside of hospitals. Whether you believe the virus is dangerous or not, it's irrelevant because the India variant is a variant, and a variant might be worse. And we don't know because no one's reporting correctly, which is the only thing we do know. No one's reporting correctly. So when I analyze all this information, I have to ask myself one thing: will this impact me? Which is the only thing ultimately I care about. And what it looks like is because they keep doing lockdowns and not doing lockdowns, and we now know that's a tool that when the government employ it, no one argues with it. And that's a case precedent is always important. Right. So now I know that if the India variant proves to be a problem, there will be another lockdown. How does this impact me? It's time to restock my freezers today.
Right.
So if I was anybody in the world right now, today, I would say you should buy it
on my high horse that I got my Moderna shot.
Right. But it might be irrelevant.
Right.
And I would be just saying to people, look, why not spend $200 and buy a deep freezer off of Craigslist, cheap, or one of those kind of like cheap little websites, or even your local grocery store probably has them cheap. Buy a deep freezer, contact your local butcher. When was the last time you went to a farmer's market? So fun. Go there, meet a butcher. This does not have to be a stressful experience, right?
Right.
Go there, meet a butcher, say, hey, I want to fill up my freezer with a bunch of vegetables and a bunch of meat. Your meat and vegetables are going to last 6 to 9 months. You're probably, because you're buying wholesale, you're buying direct, maybe it will cost you $1,000 to fill that freezer.
Right.
And if you don't have the budget today, don't worry about it. Why don't you do $200 this week, $200 a month later, and do it like that? Because the India variant probably won't be that bad for a couple of months, if at all. Worst that happens, you now have a ton of frozen, amazing food to live off for the rest of the year. You don't want to go grocery shopping for Christmas? Don't worry about it. But if this is a thing, you're completely safe and fine. And that's the crazy behind me. So.
All right. I mean, like, I don't eat that much frozen. Well, like, I don't really freeze that much food considering that I'm plant-based. So like me just stocking up on dried beans and rice would probably be the
I'd love to
equivalent
go
to that.
plant-based, but why not freeze plants?
Right.
Dude, plants freeze really well. Why not get, like, again, go to a farmer's market, buy a whole bunch of really nice freaking veggies,
Yeah.
freeze it. You know, and you'll be deep. Dude, I literally, my deep freezer is half meat, half veggies, because if worse comes to worse and we're stuck indoors, you can't just live off meat. You gotta have the veggies as well. And then I buy giant bags of rice that I store in case I need to supplement it. And then I've got a bunch of jars of like sauces that are like this big, and a bunch of base ingredients to make sauces. And you know, during quarantine, we were proving a point. We were eating incredible food every day. And of course, then we built out the farm. And there's so many tools to like build like a local like window box thing to like mushrooms and like supplemental veggies.
Right.
And it's something that like in the Great Depression, people did this. And it was seen as normal, like, because it was cheaper to buy seeds and grow the plants than it was to go and buy the vegetables. And as humans, we've kind of forgotten the importance of taking care of ourselves, I think. Like
someone that lives in the desert in Las Vegas, I don't think I have that much rich soil here.
Yeah, right. But what you can do in this way, if you do a planter, you can create your own soil and you can get it going like internally. It can be done, you know?
Yeah.
And that's the key.
I also have a cat over here. That's about 2 meals.
No, you're plant-based. Unless the cat's called like herbal or something, you're in trouble.
Side note, I am so annoyed by the fact that things say plant-based, but it still has like egg and cheese in it. I'm like, eggs don't come from plants unless it's an eggplant.
That's so funny. So I have a unique respect for vegans and vegetarians, because I was on purpose a vegetarian until dinner time every day for about 5 years. And I would purposely just not eat meat for the first half of the day.
Right.
And it was difficult. I get it. And it wasn't because it wasn't like a lifestyle choice. It wasn't a health thing. It was purely like, I don't want to be an asshole and eat lots of meat. That was really where it came from. And, but it's hard. Yeah. People absolutely misrepresent what they're giving you.
I think a lot of vegans misrepresent themselves, honestly.
Yeah.
I think that there's they're very antagonistic, and even though that they mean well.
I can see that. Yeah. I once had a great debate with an antagonistic vegan. I said he had a puppy and he loved his puppy and he like looked after it. Puppy lived like a perfect life. And I was like, I need to ask you a very philosophical question. He goes, sure. I was like, if your puppy one day woke you up in the morning and showed you that in the middle of the night, the puppy had suddenly become an artistic genius, had managed to acquire paint and a paintbrush, and had created a work of art that was akin to the Mona Lisa. This is now definitely an animal-based product. What would you do with said product? Would you show it off? Would you use it to make money? Would you use it in any way? And he goes, I'd destroy it. And I was like, I've lost all respect for you. Not for vegans, but you specifically. Yeah. Because you can't differentiate between an animal that is clearly talented and wants to show its work to the world and the idea of a plant-based product. But I get it. Like, I think there's really something noble, not just veganism, but to pick any cause and stick to it. And I know that, you know, my farm, it's kind of like that. That's like a cause that I'm on a mission. I'm on a mission to help 100 families that don't even know they need help today. And at some point in the future, when those families need help, they will be like, wow, thank you so much. And they won't realize that it took, you know, contacting the University of A&M's Farmers Department to learn how to work with our soil, that we had to hire a botanist to help calculate the unique chemical structure of our land. I mean, it's been a nightmare, and it's cost tens of thousands of dollars to learn how to do this. But one day there'll be a little family that can't afford food, and we'll be able to give them a big brown bag of groceries and be like, here you go.
Hopefully this whole pandemic doesn't have a part 2 to it, but if it does, at least we know how to be prepared for that.
Right. Yeah. Well, and the thing I think is, it's not the pandemic, it's the depression that's coming. And it is going to happen because we have a cyclical economy, and we have done, I mean, you can go back like thousands of years and you'll see this. This is normal. And we haven't had the bad one yet. The last one we had that was bad was 2008. And we're now in 2021 and we are very overdue. And we keep printing money and we keep using the stimulus and we keep doing all these things to fix it. But none of those are solutions. It's just putting a Band-Aid over the problem. And the Band-Aid is not, it's not self-repairing.
So when you said we keep printing money and, all of that, and then you were talking about you have a cryptocurrency, a healthy amount in your portfolio. What is a healthy, in your opinion, cryptocurrency portfolio? Because you can't really eat Bitcoin or Ethereum.
Correct. So actually the best investment I have is my farm. My farm is my actual, there's nothing more secure. I've got enough hedged that, I presume that if the dollar collapses, crypto goes up. It's a presumption. It's not a guarantee, but we've kind of seen that's kind of how it is.
It's trending upwards right now.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
So you want to be in it, not in it, but also I wouldn't put everything in it because it is just as likely that a government might say all crypto is banned. And that's another piece to be aware of. So you kind of, when it comes to an investment portfolio, in my opinion, you want 10% in everything, right? So crypto probably makes up like 10% of my net wealth, which is a good amount of money.
That's pretty sizable. Normally I hear about 5%, or either it's like 1 to 5% or it's like 90%. They're like all in.
Yeah, I've kind of split everything healthily across everything.
Yeah.
And I'm if I passed away today, I would probably personally be worth 8 figures. So it's a sizable amount. It's enough to be like, I was in a podcast earlier on today, and I said, like, I could choose to not work again. If I just wanted to stop, I could stop. But I'm motivated by fun and helping people and a healthy respect for future crises that I can't not think about. So I keep doing and enjoying life and trying to help people.
Yeah, that's awesome. Thank you so much.
Thanks. Yeah, thank you, man. It's I'm aware we didn't talk about anything about dating or businesses, but
but I'll just change the title of what I was thinking of. So
perfect. But yeah, it gives, I don't know. I suppose it's more. It gives insight into kind of how I think. And it's funny. Everything that I've shared is actually exactly how I think about dating. Like when somebody shows me their relationship, I'll look at the signs and be like, oh, I think this is going to happen, or hey, you should tweak these things to create that. And that's, I suppose, one of my superpowers is looking at what things are happening today and what is most likely to occur in the future based on that standard pattern.
Right. I got you. So be more aware. Right.
Yeah, I think in general, like, and really like be aware of how things affect other things. Right. So I have like two main websites. I have the smartblueprint.com, which is my business website. Right. And then I have askthedatingcoach.com, which is my dating site, or thedatingcoach.com as well, right. Which is the dating one. But both of them go off the same principle, which is we teach.
Is it still Attraction Explained?
We have it, but we don't really use it. We use thedatingcoach.com, and actually,
links honestly, our best in the description, by the way.
Nice. Yeah. So the best one is aceformula.com, which is a product from the dating. The dating one's got a bunch of free stuff. The ACE formula is like our method. And so it's ACE, and then the Smart Blueprint, SMART, right? So there are 2 blueprints, our 2 methods. And the concept is, as long as you have ACE, which is abundance, confidence, and the ability to escalate, your dating life's fine. So what we do when we get
formula, which was
C minus
comfort plus rapport minus rapport plus sexual escalation equals attraction, right?
Yeah. So and so what I've done is because I like formulas because that's kind of how my brain works.
Comfort minus.
But what I've done, exactly. So it's good that you remembered it. But yeah, what we've done is we just try and refine them to the core components. So at this point, we've worked out dating is just 3 things: abundance, confidence, and the ability to escalate. If you can do these 3 things, you're good. So when we meet a student, the very first thing we do when they join a program is analyze them and be like, okay, you're pretty good at these 2. This one needs a lot of work. And so we can direct them on how to get quick results, right? Just pick up the bad thing and everything's good. The Smart Blueprint is the same for business. If we go into a business, which is staffing, marketing, audience, revenue, and testimonials, we can look straight away. So sometimes you're going to a company and they're doing okay, but they're not growing. We're like, well, you don't get any testimonials. And so we can just make that tweak and fix it. But from these two, like, I suppose, systems, we can then predict the future based on what's missing, what's adding, and you can be like really crazy accurate. Like with the smart blueprint, if they don't have the M, which is marketing, we guarantee that their sales will be low because they don't have enough audience research to know what's going on.
Right.
But if they've got the audience, the A, it's easy. We can do the market research. Now, if they're missing marketing and an audience, market research becomes difficult. So your success rate drops significantly lower. And so all of this is calculated. We can piece it all together and predict it. So you could literally come to me and be like, my company makes 100 grand a year. I can't grow it further. By the time we assess with the smart blueprint what's missing, we can be like, oh, you should easily be able to get to $2 million within a year and a half, providing you follow these systems, right? So that is exactly what I do, but on a global scale with crisis, because I'm always trying to think about my family and looking after myself. Because that's like, my concerns are things like tornadoes, fires, pandemics, civil unrest, civil war, war on a larger scale, and aliens turning up. These are probably like the things that are the scariest.
The last one is aliens.
Well, yeah, but you got to. So it's worth mentioning this, and I'll tell you why. I did a whole, again, crisis management. I did a whole, how would the government announce aliens? Would they ever just randomly?
Curious.
Right. What would be the method? So and that's the angle. The angle is, if aliens did exist, how would the government let us know? They would never just say, hey, aliens exist, because that would cause a panic. So I was like, well, what would they do? And I was like, they would have to very, very slowly, over decades, slowly announce UFOs, and it would start with bacteria. Alien bacteria would have to be first, something non-threatening to us, in the media. And I've known this for like 15 years. I was like, this is how it would have to happen. And then about 5 years ago, they started doing it.
And then last year they said, hey, by the way, here's some pictures of UFOs.
Yep. And so I've known for 15 years how it would have to happen to not induce a panic. And then when it started happening, I started being like, God damn, I've got to add aliens as a potential thing I have to worry about.
Right.
Because they're doing the thing I predicted. I predicted this is how it would be. Right. Now, it could be a coincidence and I could be nuts. And they just might be like, well, because of the internet,
it's not taking up all your time either.
Bingo. Yeah. But I am absolutely going to sit down and think about what would I do if it happened. And but I knew the warning sign, right? I love that. But again, a key point here is, until I started seeing the signs in the media, I didn't even think about it. There was no need. I was like, these are the signs I have to worry for. Unless I see this, I'm not going to worry about aliens ever. So if you'd have said to me 10 years ago, you worried about aliens? I'm like, no, why are we worried about aliens? There's no such thing. And then when all my warning signs start happening in the media, the same with a global pandemic, I was like, it's got to breach the country that it's in, and the death toll has to be significantly heavier than the hospitals. But once COVID tripped that, I'm like, all right, I've got to take this seriously. And so I've got the same thing. So like a global depression, what I'm watching for, in case anyone cares, will be vast volatility in the stock market. That's the warning sign. Because if you look at any global depression or recession, what happens is it goes so wild that they shut it because they can't control it.
Which is kind of what it's been happening lately. The stock market has been jumping up and down. Right. I've been paying close attention. I can't get off of my Fidelity account because I'm just watching it go up and down. Same thing
That's why right now I'm saying
everyone's calling them meme stocks now.
Right. We're going to have a depression. It's going to happen. Not just a recession. This will be bad. They'll be real bad because the volatility is insane. But I almost wanted a recession to happen, because if it's volatile and we have a recession, it's like removing the pressure off a volcano. It's like it spews a bunch of gas in the air, but there's no lava. And you're like, okay, that's okay. It didn't erupt. Mm-hmm. But the longer it goes wild, the worse it is at the end. So I wanted like a 6-month recession, which would suck, but it would mean we've got a long time to wait before anything bad happens.
Right.
We've now had a period of growth and prosperity that's lasted a really long time, too long. And now the volatility is lasting a long time.
I remember there's been so many people that have told me, like, we haven't had a depression in so long and stuff. And then as the pandemic first happened, I was like, all right, here it is, but the
then it
stock
didn't
market
happen
just
because of the
kept going
stimulus.
up.
Right, but that's because of the stimulus. They did it on purpose. The stimulus stimulates. I mean, that's why it stimulates the economy. It makes people feel comfortable spending. Because of depression, all that happens is people just refuse to spend because they're scared that the money won't be worth anything, so they hold on to it. So there's no money in the market, so people lose their jobs because no one's spending, and the whole thing. It's a psychological thing.
This is making so much sense to me now.
Okay, perfect. So yeah, it's pure psychology. Because if I've got money, I'm like, well, I'm not going to spend it because I might not have any in the future. So I'm going to fire all these staff members. Now, those staff members don't have jobs, so they can't spend, right? And that's what happens. It becomes really, really bad.
Right.
So, but the way they've stopped it is with a stimulus, which basically means they've given everyone money. But where did the money come from? Where it came from is the value of a country doesn't change. The value of your country is based on how much you produce, like how much gold, gas that you produce,
right,
and how much money comes from foreign countries giving you their money. That's it. But you can temporarily make it look like you have more by printing more, but that doesn't change how much you're actually worth.
You're right.
And it only takes a while before other countries recognize what you're doing, and they're like, no, I'm not gonna buy your dollar at that price because you don't have that many. You're pretending you've got more. Yeah. So if you're like, I'll give you these $2, you're like, yeah, but they're only worth $1, aren't they? So you're gonna need to give me $4 if you want it to be $2. And that's the problem with inflation. That's when everything goes nuts.
Right.
And hyperinflation happens when the country prints more money than they know what to do. And everyone's like, how can a country be in debt? You're in debt because you've printed more money. You've given that money to other countries. They want the actual value. They don't want the paper.
You're right.
So you keep printing more, you're reducing what you're giving them and you're screwing them, and they want their money. So that's kind of like where this starts to happen. And I'm oversimplifying economics.
Basic economics, yes.
Yeah. Somebody's watching this being like, Adam's not explaining it well, but like this is for average people who don't understand anything.
Of course.
So the point now is every time we do a stimulus, every time we do it, the value of the dollar is decreasing compared to what it should be worth. Right. And at some point, we're going to get held accountable by the world at large. The rest of the economy is going to be like, yo, you need to get
there's other countries out there. They're like, I just want to be the next world currency.
Well, check this. One way of guaranteeing that, and this is one of the other things that I've seen, is those countries hold dollars. Those dollars are not circulating. If somebody throws them back on the market, the value of the dollar drops again because there's more dollars in circulation. Right. So there are countries that will absolutely buy up a ton of dollars to do economical warfare, where you then sink them back into the market and suddenly the dollar will drop even further. Now, if you want to hit somebody right, you catch them. Yeah, you're getting it.
You hit them. That sounds really dangerous to a whole country right there. Yeah.
Did you know that that's happened in our lifetime? America did that to Russia in our lifetime. Remember the sanctions on Russia? We did it with oil. That's why, if you remember when gas prices dropped, that was because under the Obama administration, Russia makes a lot of its money from oil. So to teach them a lesson, Obama sunk a ton of oil reserves into the market, which, because there was now twice as much oil available, the value of oil dropped by half, which meant their income as a country dropped by half.
Right.
So their ability to trade and negotiate with other people, they're like, look, I've got a barrel of oil. They're like, yeah, but it's only worth half a barrel. So it made it very hard for them to recover from that. It was, and you know, Russia's not going to forget something like that. And Russia absolutely has dollars. And so given an opportunity, they're going to hit back at the right moment. And this is the economic war that no one even knows goes on because it goes over most people's heads. But the point is, when you add all these factors in, there's going to be a depression. It's just about when, because the dollar is going to have to catch up to what it's actually worth. And usually, in case anyone cares, it happens in October, because that's when the government banks will announce what the inflation rate is. So between now and October,
that's good to know. So
yeah, so between now and October, you're good.
Yeah.
The question is, will it be this October, the October after, the October? And that's where the issue is. The issue is we don't know. I've got some people, because the way trends go, because I've got people I look up to learn some of this stuff from. Some people say it will just mimic 100 years ago, and we're going to have to wait until 2030. Some people say it will be during Biden's term when he's going for his 4 years to 8 years, and that it will happen right then to basically sink his chances of being re-elected.
That would,
some people say it will be this year.
Would also make sense right there, because there's a lot of people that just don't believe that of the last election. So, or the last election results. So I could see that being the result too.
Yep, it could be any of these. And so the thing about what I do, right? Yeah, and the thing about what I do and about like my predictions is I prep for all of them. So I will 100% be prepped for this October and next October and the one after and the one after. And all that will happen is if there isn't a change quickly, then I'll just shift back to doing what I was doing and keep going.
So for actionable, for something like very actionable, right? Say if someone set aside, like chip away about, say, 10% of whatever they're making right now and set it aside, save up 3 to 6 months, or because that's what I like to do. I like to have like 3 to 6 months just like saved aside in case of like pandemic.
Yeah, I think 3 to 6 months saved aside is solid for people, like financially in general. Like everyone should have that.
Yeah.
But having said that, any kind of massive, as we saw the pandemic, it's gonna last. It's gonna last over a year, 18 months to 2 years.
Depressions don't last a good like 6 months, but it's a good starting point to like not have to worry about it.
Yeah, what I did and what I would recommend people do, even if you're in a little apartment, is try and build a network of people you know that can get you things without relying on the supply chain. The supply chain is where most people get stuff, right? So without relying on Amazon and your local grocery store, develop your own supply chain. Find a supplier of eggs, of milk, of meat, and of vegetables. Because if worse comes to worse, you're going to need the food, right?
Right.
And if you've got a local supplier of these things, as stupid as it sounds, if you're a mechanic, you can't go to Amazon and be like, hey, Amazon, I'll fix your cars if you send me some food. But you absolutely can reach out to a local farmer and be like, yo, I'll fix your tractor in return for groceries. Right. And in the Depression, that's how America survived, was on that exchange, right? And so I would, and it's fun. You don't do this in like, oh, we're going to panic. Do it in I've got a friend who's a farmer, right? Yeah. Like my personal chef I was talking about.
You don't even really have to mention to them like right now, because then you'll.
Don't be weird. Yeah, don't be weird. Just make friends with some farmers. Have fun. Yeah. Hey, I got a bunch of farmers coming over for dinner. They're all bringing supplies. Just make friends with the right kind of people. And then if anything happens, you got it. Like my personal chef, he's hooked up with all of the meat markets in town. A meat market is where the grocery stores go to buy their meat to put in the grocery store, which means you can buy it and cut out the grocery store. So consequently, when I'm buying meat from him, I am essentially getting it from the wholesaler, same as I do the butchers. So everyone's like, oh, you're wealthy, you're lucky. I'm like, yeah, but I also can buy a steak for $8, like a prime A1 steak for $8. And that's
it's been so long since I've eaten. I don't know what that means.
Oh yeah, good. So we're talking about the difference of $40 to $8.
Okay.
Right? Or like, it's like a massive, or I can buy organic asparagus for cents instead of dollars, right? So that might be something that you get, right? So I can absolutely, I'm saving money month by month anyway. I mean, like to be able to go in, like spinach, like we have rows of spinach. I just literally go in the garden and get some fresh spinach. It tastes better. It's 100% organic because we know how we look after it. It looks beautiful on the plate. I've had a lot of spinach dishes. If you look on my Facebook, you'll see them. They're stunning. And it doesn't cost us anything for spinach. So, bag of spinach is like $5 in the grocery store. I literally just go and get the garden and then it just keeps replenishing and growing more. Like it's free. Right. So yeah, the long and short is
I did hear that like if you cut like say romaine lettuce, right? And then you can stick it in grass, you can stick it in like water and then it'll grow back. But I heard it's more bitter that way too.
Yeah, I mean, but again, it depends what nutrients you put in it. And that's why we paid a botanist to come and help us out and learn all this kind of stuff. But yeah, that's the whole point. Like a farm is self-renewing if you do it right. And it just looks after itself and it produces its own seeds that help replenish it year after year. And yeah, it takes some effort, but I mean, it's like an hour and a half a day, 45 minutes twice a day. And and we only have 1 acre designated only, but again, we're trying to feed 100 families. If we were just trying to feed our own family, you could supplement your groceries with a couple of window boxes, right? And anyone can get window boxes, but just growing stuff you actually use and keeping it going. And it's fun. So that's kind of what, and yeah, I should probably round it out, but that's kind of what I'm trying to say.
Right.
There's nothing wrong with being a little bit more self-reliant and doing it for fun, not out of, oh my God, what if aliens attack?
Right.
But at the same time, why not sit down for fun over dinner, and rather than bitching about your aunt who never calls you back,
Right.
why not have a discussion if aliens came and
sounds like a
what would
much better conversation to have. Yeah.
It is, and that's what we do. And that's what we do. We have those conversations at our house. Just a hypothetical. If this scenario happened, what would we all do?
Like it? my favorite verbiage is, like, I know I already said it, was don't be paranoid, be prepared. That's what I learned when I took my classes for my CCW, and
Nice.
As soon as the first lockdown happened, I was like, before it even happened, one of my coworkers said that someone tried to follow them into their house with a knife. And I'm like, maybe I should be taking this more seriously. And I went to the store before all of the ammo shortage, and I bought some ammo just in case, because I was like, this could get the people. I was like, everything was fine, but now people are starting to act pretty stupid.
It's funny you say that. I bought a plastic, it's like a letter opener, but it's like a sharp letter opener. I mean, it's clearly designed as a one-use weapon. Yeah. And I bought them for every woman I know. And I told them, keep them in the door of your car. They were like $6 each. And they were like, why do I keep this in the door of my car? I was like, it's really simple. If someone's going to attack you, it's far more likely to happen within the door of your car where they can hide it. Then they're not really going to do it elsewhere. Plus, if someone follows you in a parking lot, you can get to the door of your car and there's a knife. And I was like, what's cool about it is if you're, because a lot of them are concerned about weapons, I was like, use it as a letter opener. You get in your car, you pick up your mail, open up with it. You got something there. But in the day that you need a weapon, you're more likely to need it in the door of your car, or in the door of your car as you're going to your house, than anywhere else. And just knowing you've got it there will give you a level of protection. Of course, during the pandemic, we saw that people were getting mugged for groceries as they were getting into their car. So anyway, that's my crazy Adam. Now you know how nuts I am. So
we went from a business growth in 2020 to pandemic of 2021, 2022,
and aliens.
And aliens. I can't forget the aliens.
Drew, it was really good chatting to you, man.
Thank you so much for letting me reach out and having this chat with you, Adam.
Thank you, man. Best of luck. Have a good one.
Let's stay in touch.